Welcome, everyone. This is Tim Marlowe coming to you live here Tuesday, July 21st, and we're excited to be bringing you an additional podcast pop-up interview with my good friend, Koshin Fidaar. How are you doing today, my friend?
Good, how are you?
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
He is local here in the area. He's running for a candidate position for the State House 29th Legislative Position 1, correct?
Correct.
And so with that being said, we love reaching out to the local community and seeing what we can do to enhance your voice, to broadcast your voice. And so today we're going to be learning everything about Koshin. We have a handful of questions that we're just going to just get to know you and learn what you're going to be able to do for your district coming into this election. So why don't you just quickly tell our audience just a little bit about yourself and how you got to this position at this point?
Absolutely. All my adult life, I lived in Washington State.
Okay.
I grew up in North Seattle. Came to the United States when I was in junior high. After high school and college, I went to the military. I am married with 4 children. I live in District 29 for the past 10 to 11 years. Mm-hmm. And I have seen a lot about what's happening in the district. And as a veteran, as someone who also is very passionate about community activism, I really see a lot of things that needs to be changed in our district. That's why I am running for office.
Nice. Well, I just want to say thank you for your service, not only currently, but your military experience as well. Yes. So thank you. You obviously have a lifetime of experiences at this point, from being a family man, military, and running your own businesses. So why don't we talk a little bit about employment and jobs and what the 29th District is currently facing when we're talking about unemployment and how we're going to, lower unemployment with 40 million people, it seems like, nationally
right.
Facing the same issue. Let's talk a little bit about jobs here.
Right. When initially I submitted my platform, I was thinking about jobs, criminal justice system, and also helping working families to have a home for their families. Mm-hmm. But after the pandemic, I kind of adjusting to it because we have to recover from the coronavirus pandemic. Mm-hmm. When we go back, so now the challenge is recovering economically from the pandemic, going back to where we were, 3%, close to 3% unemployment, and also managing coronavirus because we don't have vaccine yet. If you listen to the science, this thing's not going to go away anytime soon.
Yeah.
So now I really want everybody to understand that I will be working hard for us to actually recover from the pandemic economically and also socially, because we really need to be able to
live with it. We have to live with it.
It's a new reality, exactly. But we cannot stop our lives not doing anything. We have to manage this crisis in a way in which it's intelligent and also supported by science.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, and if there's this many people on unemployment, and unemployment is a state benefit, and no one is working for the state to actually have taxes taken out of their wages, eventually that pot of gold is going to be gone.
It's going to go gone, right.
And so what are some differences between, in your district, with living wage jobs or the single earner family wage jobs?
Right. We have to understand that my district, 29th, it is mainly very poor working class families. We have middle class also and upper class families, but majority in the district we have a lot of blue collar people, and that's where the pandemic is really hitting hard.
For sure.
Now we have a moratorium of evictions, but how long is it going to last? I mean, I really want to see that to be last until we go back to where we were, 3% unemployment.
Right.
Because we don't want to create another pandemic of homelessness in our state. And we have to understand that what affects District 29 affects the entire state. So as a candidate, I will also have that mindset of helping the entire state, bringing all the elected officials together and also work for the people of Washington State, because our lives are interdependent.
Yeah. Well, it's important because it's not necessarily you representing one district, but it's also you representing that district alongside your colleagues
Absolutely.
to gather all the information, not just from your district, but from countywide to statewide, and learning how, well, what is this area doing? And that dialogue alone could help anyone that's willing to actually have it.
Exactly.
And so I think that's going to be a major change once you're in office, because at that point, I don't know, dialogue, communication, this is what we need to get past the next hurdle.
Exactly.
Right. So going over home ownership and for the working families, you talked about just that is a big portion of your district here.
Right.
What are the plans to either increase the home ownership in your district to, just being able to get affordable housing in those areas?
Right. My colleagues of both sides of the aisle really talk about helping working families to be able to buy a home. Mm-hmm. But what hasn't happened so far is a research done by how that can be possible. How can we have working families and working poor families own homes? Because we know the benefit of having a home. Family, when the family owns a home, I don't want to lecture about all the exponential benefits that it has, but how can we get families to own a home? Now, what I really want to advocate and advance is not only that we're going to give them the first ownership as down payment assistance, but that's not enough. People, even though we have up to $40,000 down payment assistance, we still don't have any significant number of people actually accessing and buying homes. The best way is to actually have a plan saying like every working family, every working poor family should own a home agenda. That will help those families to own a home. Then the focus will be both the private and the state sector helping families to own a home. And what I think the best way to do that is to actually take first home family will be able to build their own home, because when you're building a home, it's a lot easier to deal with than when you say you're going to buy a home already existing. So in that case, what we can actually do as a state representative is to help take up to $150,000 of taxes and licensing and things that actually the state actually can do in kind for these families to defer it until the mortgage is being paid.
Wow.
Because then what's going to happen is that instead of saying, the people going to the bank and saying we want $400,000 loan, they're going to say we want $300,000 loan.
$250,000, $300,000.
Exactly.
Significant difference.
Significant. And also we know how the bank calculated the fiscal score, and the income ratio, right? So when we do that, we're literally making people attractive to any bank or any lender to actually help the working families to own a home.
Well, how do you think owning a home just gives someone a chance, to get out of poverty, to get... I think you nailed it there for a second. It gives you the confidence. It gives you the posture, saying that you're now in a position to do this. So talk a little bit about why you think owning a home could help people get out of poverty.
It's an amazing feeling when you own your first home. Anyone who experienced that feeling will tell you it's just unbelievable. But also I want to go to the fact that it is a counter attack against the cycle of poverty. When families own home, not only that the cohesion of that family and working the family to work together for helping each other, whatever challenge that they're facing in life will help them, but also it will leave for transferable asset in the future.
For sure.
It's unbelievable.
It's an investment in your life, and a lot of people, when they look at buying a home, they just see the overall price tag and be like, I can't do that.
Exactly.
But if you understand that price tag and work with individuals like yourself that are able to persuade and work with the mortgage loans and stuff like that and defer the loans like you were talking about, or at least that portion of the loan, that could be a game changer.
Absolutely. And the other thing is this. It's a win-win situation. They state more working families own home. There's two things going to happen right away. One, the state will collect more taxes because more homes
Property
will
tax,
be exactly
right?
will be built on exactly. They're not losing anything. The second thing is the builders. We're going to have a significant number of houses built when we have $150,000 suspended until the loan is being paid, and that's not only it's not money coming from the bank or anything. It's just taxes, things that's supposed to be paid up front before the home.
It sounds like that's why big investors go into investment, right?
Exactly.
And so there's always, a kickback or a deferment or a push off of taxes. So I think that's huge. If we're able to do it for big business, we should be able to do it for the majority because, again, that's the 97% of the community, not the 3% who can actually afford it. So,
exactly.
Man, that's huge. Going from that and into criminal justice, we've seen just the justice system just go back and forth. I mean, we've had since COVID-19 prisoners released, we've had just a difference in what this community is doing with the justice reform. So let's talk a little bit about that and what we can do as an immediate response to kind of make a little bit of a better change.
Right. One of the key things why we really have to be criminal justice reform conscious is the fact that, for instance, in my district, we have twice more violent crimes than the statewide
Wow.
statistically. It's just unbelievable. Anyone can Google this. You can fact check me. And when you have that kind of level of crimes, the citizens who live in my district need to be assured that they have a protection for their personal safety and also for their property, right? So all this defund the police, all these things, it really doesn't matter to my district. What matters is a very professional, respected police officers working for these families. And also, I talk about criminal justice system reform before even the Floyd death happened. As a black person who live in America, I know what that is. No one is going to explain to me what is going on. What I know for a fact is that overwhelming police officers are professional, and when you talk to them, because I started talking to individual police officers, it's unbelievable that individual stories, when you actually not lump sum them as a police officers, but individuals, it's amazing. They come to the police force to help their community, to make that sacrifice. Like when I was joining the army, I didn't go to the army to kill people. I joined the army to serve my country and help protecting my country, right? So knowing that, of course, there is a bad apples anywhere in major cities. And what I always want to tell my Democrat colleagues is that, look, you control all these cities. Stop making political point about police brutality. Do something about it. There's a bad apples, and we know why.
Yeah.
The reason is because we have, in the police force, we have mayors that's protecting these bad apples.
Sure.
And all these mayors are Democrats. And I'm saying, look, you blaming it. Who are you blaming? All this happening right now needs to be accountable for the Democrats who are in charge of this.
Right.
So it's not, for me, it's not about who is doing that. I know who is doing it and what's happening, and I really want to actually make a change. How we can, for instance, help the police restore their professional and the work that they're doing for the community is to get rid of these bad apples. And how you do that is to give the commanding officers of the police force a way that they can actually discipline and get rid of those people. Get rid of the union.
Yeah. Because I don't know much about the how the police are protected from their unions and stuff like that. But you're right. They just can't always hide behind a written document when they're doing things that are such a physical harm to the community that they're supposed to be serving.
Exactly. And what they will say, we got to do all this, the union. We got to defend the interest of the... No. You're not protecting the interest of the police officers if you are allowing these bad apples to be amongst you. Okay. Yeah. For instance, I was in the army. I take my team outside the wire, meaning going to combat. Right. We have rules of engagement. I'm responsible. We don't have union in the military. We don't. And we are disciplined. We do work done.
Mm-hmm.
And when even we are in doubt, we say, okay, what is the commander's intent? So if every police officer has that, ability, every officer, every leader in the police force in America have that kind of ability, like the military officers and leadership, I think the bad apples could not even survive a day or two.
No, you're right. And so I think there's a huge weight on keeping the funds for the police, but at the same time, you have to learn how to police the police. And so,
Exactly.
if a lower soldier, let's go to the military, right? If that private's acting up, that commander isn't going to go to that private necessarily. They're going to go to that team leader. They're going to go to that squad leader.
Exactly.
They're going to go to the platoon leader.
Exactly.
and ream them behind doors and discipline them because they are responsible for that private. So that is the same type of just communication, dialogue. I mean, you said it earlier. You were saying that I've spoken to these officers, and they're not bad apples. They're doing great things. They're humans. They're mothers. They're fathers. They're and they're serving their community. But you're right. There are a couple that we have to figure out what to do with them, and if we don't do immediate action, well, that's what the justice system would do to a civilian.
Right.
Is immediate action.
Right.
So it has to correlate with what we are expecting from the citizens on top of what the expectation is for police officers.
Absolutely. And that's the section I talk about, actually, the police, dealing with the police problem that we have. But also when we're talking about justice reform, we're talking about how someone can do something bad to the society. For instance, I'm not talking about very violent or domestic violence. I'm not talking about cases that the public safety is mandating to actually have it in public. I'm talking about cases that no one should know. First-time offenders who made a mistake, based that the society, they come out, then guess what? They can't get a job. They can't earn their respect back. They can't even get back the jobs that they were doing.
Yeah.
So what we're basically doing is that we are actually victimizing. The system is victimizing thousands and thousands of former inmates.
Wow.
We need that to be changed.
I thought when you did your time, you're done. You did your time.
It's not done.
It's not done.
It's not done.
It's almost like a red letter, right?
Exactly.
Across you and across your everything at this point, your credit score and everything. Right? And so it's very unfortunate. So that's a huge part of the reform that needs to be implemented, right?
Absolutely. And for instance, I had a specifically one person I always want to bring to how damaging this is. A young lady who actually was accused to be a prostitute. In record, she wasn't found guilty or anything, but it's on record. Guess what? She's a prostitute in the eyes of the public.
Wow.
How that young woman can function in this society.
Wow.
This is ridiculous. This needs to be changed. The record of the former inmates should be known to the justice system alone. People who it concerns, not people who will victimize those people who are trying to actually put their life back into track.
Yeah. Wow. There's obviously a lot that each district needs to focus on, not just the 29th, because it seems like we can label any of these questions for anywhere. So hopefully you are having these same conversations with your colleagues, because again, going back to the situation, you're only one person, so you have got to, do everything you can to connect with everyone else in the state to be able to make these things happen.
Absolutely.
It's important for sure.
It has to be bipartisan.
You talked a little bit about the violent crimes in your district. What do you think the leading cause is from all that?
The violent crimes is like, our state is actually attracting basically all the people who are addicted to drugs and people who are actually wants to do whatever they want in life. No accountability, nothing. Literally, we are attracting those. We have places where people can actually do injections and sites and what have you. Now, I'm not saying it's a bad thing to try to help people not to transmit diseases, and I'm very conscious about that. But what I'm saying is that if we don't have a national way of doing this, one state, our state, if only our state is doing it like we're doing it, it's going to be the hub of all these addicts to come to actually do drugs. And
Because we're giving them needles.
we're giving them needles. We're giving them the, we actually are supporting their addiction. So what we need is to have a very serious conversation about, okay, we have people who are addicts. And when person is addict is a sick person, they are not in charge of their faculty anymore. So they need the societal help, right? And also there are people who are poor, who are just homeless. They down to their luck. They don't have a job. They're not addicted to anything. Their families. Those also needs to be addressed differently.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely. So what we now have is that when we talk about homelessness, we talk about like as a one group, giant group. No, it's not one group. It's a multiple groups.
It's just like a normal society. It's
Right.
another community.
Yeah, another community, exactly. And they have different reasons why they're homeless.
Right,
They have
right.
different stories, and we need to address those.
Do you know the amount of? Oh, we're going to go into homelessness here in just a minute. Do you know what percent, or how much of the homelessness in your district isn't even from your district? Because from my understanding, at least, being blessed to be able to just listen to other candidates, interview other candidates, and had a good conversation with Ryan Mallow before, and he was just saying, almost a third of this county's or this city's homelessness comes from a different area code.
Areas code. Yeah.
So it correlates with exactly what you're saying, where if you continue to not create a solution, but just allow addicts to continue their situation and their habit, then
Exactly.
we're going to attract them.
More and more, yeah.
Wow.
We're not addressing. And also, District 209 is a transient. It's literally, there's a lot of military families that comes in and go. And it's mainly transient. The families, the people I interviewed, most of them, they are 2 years, 3 years in the district. The people are really, it's a transient.
Yeah.
When I talk to the schools, I previously taught a high school, they were telling you the kids are literally 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. We don't have, the turnaround is just unbelievable.
Wow. So talking about the violent crimes in your district and, excuse me, and being able to overcome them as a citizen in your own district, what are some things that your local 29th district people can do to just better themselves or protect themselves or help decrease the violent rate crime? Like, what are some things that we can do proactively?
Right. I want people in my district to own homes.
Okay.
When people own homes, they will take care of their neighborhood.
Right.
They want the neighborhood to be safe and what have you. But also we need to increase the resources of the police officers. We have to increase the response time. We have to, decrease the response time. I talked to about 5 people who actually called police, including myself, and we time-tested it. It's 30 minutes.
Wow.
To police to show up, something that's not life-threatening. I'm not talking about life-threatening, but
Sure.
if it's not life-threatening. 30 minutes, that's a lot. Average. There was 25 to 1 hour.
Wow.
That's a lot. People will then not going to call the police because they don't have time to wait around
Sure.
when the crime happens. So one is to help police force to have the resources that they need to increase the response to decrease the response time. The other thing is to give the officers time, like we're giving them time to actually do the paperwork, to give them time to get to know their community.
Huge.
It's huge.
Dialogue.
Dialogue. People to know their neighborhood, because most of the police officers who work in my district, they don't even live in the district.
Sure.
That's really heartbreaking, because I want my police force to know their community. Who's the bad, who's the good, what's going on.
You
with
want them to protect your
Exact-
community as if they were living in the community, and being a part of that
Absolutely.
community. Sure.
And the community love them and respect them as individuals, not only because they are the police officers with a badge, but also individuals, know their history. It will really help to reduce the misunderstanding between the community and the police force.
Oh, yeah. Well, it sounds like we need to get some sort of podcast going for police officers so they can start, getting to know their community, and their community can get to know them.
Absolutely.
It's definitely something that we should talk to them about, because you're right. I mean, our police force is down from my understanding. We're not up to par with all the police that we have,
Exactly.
we need to duplicate their voice,
Right.
especially the ones that are doing everything they can to get that good dialogue started.
Absolutely. And attacking the police is not that's not the answer.
No.
This is our police force. This is people we pay to protect us. It's like someone complaining about their bodyguard and saying, I want to give them less resources.
Sure.
I want to abort. If you do that, what are you doing? You're taking your freedoms away from yourself.
You turn around that 25, 30-minute response time to never.
Never.
Wow.
We have seen
Yeah.
during the protest.
Right. Wow. Well, let's talk a little bit about the homelessness. We have a couple comments here about the tiny house village here and the project, actually right down the road from our studios. Let's talk a little bit about your thoughts on homelessness.
The homelessness is also, as we said, it's not like one single thing. There are
Sure.
different groups that are homeless. Families that are homeless because simply the families couldn't afford to rent a home.
Mm-hmm.
And
rent is higher than a
it's
normal
way
mortgage, which
hard.
goes back to your other comment. We should just
Exactly.
buy homes.
Right. We know that people who are living now in apartments in my district, most of them will tell you they can't afford. So they live crowded. Mm-hmm. Instead of 3 bedroom, they live 1 bedroom and a half or 2 bedroom. Okay, so the rent is really way up there because the proportion that the building and the demand is really not matching, right?
Sure.
So we have more tenants, but we have less homes available. And then what happens is that the price skyrockets, and guess what? All those working people who are actually making the minimum wage and what have you cannot afford to be in a suitable home.
Wow.
Some of them they simply lose the job a month or 2 months earlier, and they become homeless. Mm-hmm. So we shouldn't have that kind of situation where families will be on the street for themselves, because we know what happens in the streets.
What gets me, sorry, not to interrupt you. What gets me is the transition period,
right?
Going from a rental place to a rental place, and bringing up any of the statistics we talked about before with justice reform. I mean, you're talking about some tenants have to have 2, 3, 6 months worth of rent just to prove that either they're worthy enough, they have a job, or because there are or they're tagged with whatever they did prior, they're now subjectified to higher rates just because you did a misdemeanor.
Right. And not only that, because we have a lot of good-hearted legislators trying to legislate to have more red tape for people to be evicted. That created an unintended consequence for people to actually move into those places in the first place.
Yeah.
Because when I am a landlord, if I know it's going to be very difficult to go to court and evict a landlord within, may say, a month or 2 when they are delinquent in rent, then my requirements to get in that house is going to be so high. For instance, asking for 5 months of deposit, it's just crazy stuff. So that's why we need to have a very intelligent way of dealing with home rental and home owners a relationship, and also increasing. Actually, there are a lot of companies. They're not building. There are a lot of companies that actually have the assets to build homes, but the problem is that it's the red tape. It's crazy. So I think one of the key things that as legislatures we can rally behind is to give every working family a way to have a home.
It's basic stuff.
It's very basic.
It's basic stuff.
Yeah, and that's what I want to say. I hear from every single legislature in Colombia. Every working family deserves a home.
Yeah, because, I mean, if you take someone out of their home, and if you haven't been in that situation before, you have no idea what it feels like. And so just to be able to just say no, or bypass a policy or a bill that you could be working towards to expand that red tape so it can happen, or it can delay someone so they can be able to pay something just because of timelines or whatever like that. It gives the community. Don't you want your community to be thriving? You don't want to be the legislator that says, well, I wrote a bill that allows landlords to evict you within 31 days because you didn't pay it on that 31st day. Like, this is crazy stuff. Absolutely. Well, this has been interesting topics. We're going to go into our last topic here with mental health, which we dived a little bit earlier on it, between the criminal justice reform, being homeless, because there's different levels of homelessness, and there's some people that choose that lifestyle, and some people that just, well, a pandemic hits and they're out of a job, and now you know, we're dealing with all of what we just talked about with the homelessness. And so let's talk a little bit about the mental health issues here, and what do you think we can do to lower the cost of treatments to get it going?
Well, the thing is, mental health. When I think about mental health, in my experience, there are people who are actually mentally ill, who needs our help. And we have a moral obligation as a society to help our mentally ill people. The problem we have is that families, they don't have a legal way of literally interfering mentally ill person in the family.
Wow.
I personally have that person in my family.
Okay.
We are trying to help. He's an addict, and he's mentally ill. We're trying to help. There is no way we can do it. We call the police. We're trying to save him. We can't.
Because he still has to say yes.
It has to say yes. So we need to change the law. We need to be able to help our mentally ill individuals.
Sure.
Because there are families, like my family, who wants to help. We don't want that person to be dependent on in society. It is. Goes in and out jail, shouldn't be. That person belongs to a hospital. Guess what? We can't even put it in a hospital. We can help that person. So we need to change the law where we can say, okay, if we declare someone is mentally ill, give the family who cares for that person the ability, the legal way, that legal ability to help that person. Either whatever they want to put in, however they want to help.
Sure. Since I know that you'll get a rebuttal with that, what do you think the checks and balances on that system could be, though?
Well, the thing is,
not to give the family too much power, right? I don't want to just send off little old grandma because they think that she's senile, but at the same time, they now have access to everything.
Give an impartial judge the ability to do so.
Okay, I love it.
Yeah, don't give the power all over the family. No.
Right.
Give the judge the discretion to actually make that ruling.
Yeah.
They don't have now.
Right.
And that needs to be changed.
And again, that could be something that can be easily implemented, and not to put too much work back onto our judges, but at the same time, it's needed.
Exactly.
It's needed.
In order to help our mentally ill. This is the other thing. If you are mentally ill, you are not in charge of your faculty. You are not in charge, right? So why you are not allowing the state or a family to be the guardian of you?
Well, it's because they're mentally ill and they can't make that decision.
Exactly. So we need to have a way of doing it.
We need to have it. Yeah.
Right. Instead of having them homeless, running around, being in jails, in and out.
Right.
Shooting them.
It sounds like it's just mental health seems to be just a back burner issue to push off to someone else.
Right.
And unfortunately, we can't continue to do that. These individuals are members of our families. Exactly. They're members of our society, and they matter. And
the other thing is this: our police officers don't deserve to deal with these mentally ill people.
Right.
Most of the time when our police officers seem like they are really doing bad things is when they confront someone they think is a normal person but is mentally ill.
Yeah.
They're not trained to deal with mentally ill people.
Wow.
So we really need to take care of our mentally ill people on the street.
Wow, Koshin, this has been an amazing talk. You have a lot on your plate, and it sounds like you have been getting out into your district and figuring out what is really needed. It's not just going back to the old race and seeing just what my opponent is doing or just trying to rebuttal. It's really living in the district and taking responsibility for your district, and that's what I hear from our conversation today. Well, we're going to wrap this up here in just a few minutes. I want to give some contact information. Think of something that you would love to just leave with our audience. But to contact Koshin here, go to info@friendsofkoshin.com or go to as an email, but also go to www.friendsofkoshin.com.
That's great.
And so, what can you leave our audience with here?
I want you to vote not because I am asking you. I want you to vote for me because I really want to focus what is important to you, to me, because I have vested interest in this district. I have family that's going to public school. I live in this district for a decade. We need to recover from the pandemic, go back and get our jobs, regain our jobs. Second, we have to go down to the real important jobs. We have to be safe in our homes. We have to have all these working families to be able to build their own homes for their families. And also we have to have a sensible criminal justice reform where actually when you are facing justice, you're actually facing a true justice, not something that's not justice. The definition of justice, everybody who is American can understand what justice means. But what I'm saying is the true justice is when you pay your time, your debt to society. No one or state should have the right to go after you.
Right.
And that has to be done, especially for minorities.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in today. Go vote. Go check out my friend over here, Koshin. He's got a lot going on over there in the 29th District. And again, he's one of our locals, and we adore him because you are doing everything you can to put the people first. And that's what's important because it doesn't matter how many people go in office if the change doesn't happen, if the action isn't taken, and it doesn't matter who sits in that seat. So
Exactly.
Give my friend here a chance. Go vote. And until next time, be the change needed in the world today. We'll see you guys.
Bye.